Ugh, I don't know if to sound like them. But I just had some millions flying over me as I went to start this video, so I think that is a very, very good sign that this might be something you need to hear. Um, I wanted to talk about the struggle of letting go and relationships, not just romantic, but friendships, conversations, co-workers, whatever kind of relationship it is, relationships you have with places or spaces, about how they aren't always meant to last. And that sometimes that is for your sake, and sometimes that is because the energy that you were there to be placing, the lives you were meant to be shifting and changing, the work there is done, and it's time to move on. Sometimes for your own sake, and sometimes because your energy, your support is needed elsewhere. We all go through times in our lives where it is our time to leave a place, and it's difficult. Sometimes it's times where a friendship is ending, whether it is, mutual and something that is amicable. I don't know how to pronounce the word. I'm not wording very well today. But other times it is not easy. It hurts. It's painful. That change, that shift, that separation, it suddenly goes from working to not being okay. And it's not always easy, but usually that pain, that discomfort, and I want to pause here and validate it because, it makes sense that, whether it is a mutual leaving or not, that it hurts, that you might feel anger, that you might feel sadness, that you might feel a lot of different things, and all of them are valid. And even if they feel like they contradict each other, like you're excited for the new opportunity, you're happy that something is changing, you're happy for what is coming in, you can still be sad and grieving or angry or however many emotions you are feeling that something else is ended. Okay, but those emotions, those feelings, they're called feelings because we physically feel them in our body. They give us discomfort. They are there for a reason. They are there to tell you that it is time, that time has come, that it is here now to end, to finish, to complete, to change, to shift, to move on, to go where we need to go and be where we need to be and be who we need to be. That the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now, while they might have aligned with us in the past, they no longer do. And in order to move on to that next step, to find our sparkle, to step into ourselves and really let ourselves shine and glow, because we are all meant to. If you are seeing this, if you are here, if you are listening to this, you are meant to be shining and glowing. And the circumstances you find yourself in are limiting that. They are not allowing that. They are constricting in some way. It is, at the time of recording this, the end of the year, the snake, we are shedding, we are letting go. And in order to move into that next step, we have to let go. That doesn't mean there is not discomfort, but sometimes in understanding why something is happening, it allows us to move through it. It allows us to process it and feel those feelings that are popping up to be all felt. And the other thing is that sometimes, we need to look at where we are and who we are around. Have we made a difference in the people around us? I have experienced multiple times in my life where I have seen people change. And I'm not saying that, everybody always gets better because they spend time around me, because I am not nearly that egotistical. I wouldn't want that to be. But in being myself and in practicing, my self-improvement, in telling other people or suggesting things based on whatever my intuition is telling me, or sharing my experiences, I have seen it make a shift in people. And it's not because I tell them to do things, but in acting in the ways I act, in letting my light shine and expand in the ways that I do, it gives others permission and space to try something new, to understand a different way or perspective that they might not have previously. I've seen this repeated so many times in my life, but it was only recently that I had started reflecting on this and seeing these perspectives and changes. And, sometimes people shift for a while and do what they'd like to do, but they decide to ultimately stay where they're at. And as much as those friendships or relationships might have meant something or still means something, it no longer aligns with who I am. And it dims my light. It makes me dim myself because, I have attachment issues. I have troubles letting go. I've lost a lot of people in my lives, and that is really, really hard. And it makes me want to hold on to friendships or relationships that don't make me feel good, that do not align with the person I am or am becoming. Sometimes we have goals, and in order to step into that person, step into that light that we are looking for, we first have to let go. And it's an important step, but a hard step. I have had to do that for people who have decided to stay where they're at, and it wasn't easy. But in other times, I see people who it feels like I'm meant to be in their lives for a while, and they change. They understand their value. They understand what they deserve. They understand the kind of love that they deserve. They understand or realize that they do not have to settle for things that make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel unsafe. And as they begin to understand this, they step into this knowing and they make the changes necessary. They stand up for themselves. And reflecting back, I see those changes around me in me admitting and outright saying, hey, this is not okay, this is not right. Or here is, the situation in a different perspective. And I can see the actions they take to make themselves feel safe and comfortable. And in these moments looking back, I can tell that sometimes I moved on and ended that friendship or stepped away from that, being that home, that place, because the role I had been there to play, whether for one person or many, had been completed. Fully changing the structure of a former business when there was some horrible management in place that was not aligned for, the owners, nor was it aligned for the community. And through me being there and speaking up when harm was being done, those changes that were needed were made. And the people who were much better suited for the position, the business, the community at large, were in the roles that could allow for things to actually succeed and blossom. And in a way, it was a great position, but it was completed. My role there was done, and that was shown to me by extreme anxiety, mental health issues flaring up, dysregulation constantly. I understood that my role was done. Whether it was easy to leave it or not is a completely different matter, but in doing that, I wound up here. Another change was with a colleague I had worked at a call center, and it was a slow time, so we had time between calls while waiting, and in between that we had a deep conversation about how he'd made a comment about, he could understand how homeless people with physical disabilities, might not get a job and why they would be homeless, but he didn't understand why anybody who looked normal didn't, why they were homeless, why they didn't have a job, why they didn't have a place to live. And so I got open and I shared a lot about my mental health issues. A year before that, I had struggled with depression so badly that I could not get out of bed for 6 months. I couldn't do it. I was so low on energy. I was so low on motivation. I couldn't. It was a really hard time. And if I had not been so lucky to have a good family and friends and few people who would have supported me and were able to support me until I could get back on my feet again, until I could feel better without the pressure of having to do what I couldn't, I would have wound up homeless. I would have wound up with nothing because there was no other option for me. But I was lucky enough to have that. And so I shared that with him. I talked about how there were so many disabilities and issues that could happen that were fully out of your control, that were not visible to the naked eye. You can't be in someone's brain, from things like major pain issues to, mental health issues in various severities. And at the end of that conversation, he turned to me and said, "Thank you." Like I would have gone the rest of my life thinking my previous way of thinking. I didn't realize any of this. I didn't know how bad it could get. And in that moment, I understood that was a purpose I had. I was able to change the way he saw a whole large population who often needs help and support. And he, from that moment on, went on thinking and understanding people at large better. He had more sympathy, he had more empathy, because I gave him a perspective he had not seen in sharing hard times that I had had, in sharing my light, in having a honest conversation of talking about things that I truly felt passionate about, and letting my light shine and glow. I changed the way that person saw the world, moved through the world. I changed their energy and perspective. And it wasn't because it was a friendship that should last for years. It wasn't because that coworker needed to stay in my life for the rest of my life, but we needed that moment. I didn't really have many conversations with him after that. I left the employment, we switched to work from home. I ran into medical issues. And so, that was kind of the end of that co-working situation. But I felt like my purpose there, in a way, had, been enacted. And trying to relate to that in other areas of my life, in other ways I have seen friendships and relationships, and it gives me a perspective and, in a way to understand and heal that part of me. Because the other thing is that when we do finally let go, when we stop fighting and resisting the urge to move on, things wind up working better than they were before. We get new opportunities we might not have had if we hadn't stayed where we were at. Sorry, some of my neighbor's cats were meowing, just wanted to make sure everything was okay. It was. But where was I? Yes, if we do not let go, if we do not make space for the new things in our lives, if we do not release the thing that needs to end, whether it is a job, whether it is a friendship or a relationship, a place of living, if we do not say to the universe, either through our actions or even through just how we vibrate internally, how we start to shift and change our mindset, that thing that we are struggling with is going to get more and more uncomfortable. And as it does, it is the universe trying to say, hey, come on, let's go. It's time. Let go of this because I got better stuff waiting for you. You've been manifesting those things, and the more you're manifesting, the more you're going to see those shifts of things that need to be released, things that need to be let go, things that need to change. But when we do that, we make the space. We make the mental capacity. You can't start working another full-time job if, excuse me, confirmation burp there. You can't work a full-time job if you're already working a full-time job, right? If that is what your next step is bringing in that better job, that better employment, that better opportunity, you're going to have to first let go of your old job. And that's not me saying just go quit and hopes that it'll show up, but you need to at least be prepared for that to happen, because the universe is out there with better things. Like, this is what you've been asking for, they are there. So you just, as hard as it is sometimes, feel the emotions, feel the grief, the anger, the hurt, whatever it is that is coming up. Let yourself be in that. But at the same time, try to move through it. Try to understand and be open and aware that these new opportunities are going to come in. Because when they do come in, I want you to see them. I want you to recognize them, because you deserve to. You deserve to be aware and be able to reach out and grasp it and take in this life that is waiting for you, that you have been calling in, because it is here. So I love how the energy of this message shifted. It feels a lot more light and hopeful. I hope that with this you have shifted and been able to understand, process, and move through. And at the end, I truly hope that you're feeling just this little bit lighter. Not that you do not feel the other things, but that there's a little glimmer of hope, a little sparkle, a little direction as to the path to move through it, how to get through it, how to process it. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and I am grateful you exist. If this made a difference, I really would love to hear it, because as much as I am sure of my own path and my own message and my own understanding of things, you know, we all still need a little validation sometimes. This is a very new way of being myself in the world, and it is one I plan to continue, but I truly hope it resonates. So anyways, I will see you in the next one.